Emotional pain. If you're watching this video, I'm sure you've tried to escape your emotional pain before. Stayed busy, numbed out, ran from it. And every time you tried to run, your pain came back to you. Maybe it came back in a different way. Because you can never escape your emotional pain. And running from it is exactly what's giving it power over your life. By the end of this video, you'll understand how to build a better relationship with your emotional pain, the mistake most men make with it, and how accepting your pain can help you live a more peaceful and fulfilling life. So let's get started. The truth is, for men, emotional pain terrifies us. I would say from a young age, maybe 1 in 100 people are taught to handle pain. We're trained in the West to never talk about death, to never share negative emotions, to be nice guys who avoid having hard conversations, to label experiences bad and good, black and white, and we'll get to why that's important later. This is also my experience. When I've wanted to feel pain, when I've experienced pain, I've wanted to numb out. I want to escape, I want to hide, and I don't want to feel what's going on in my body, the strong emotions. And really, for me, and I think for other men, maybe yourself, that it feels like it's too much. We can't handle it in that moment. And we just want to escape. We want to feel less. For generations, men have learned to numb and deny. So it's not surprising that as men, we haven't been learnt to sit with, deal, and learn from our pain. Our pain can give us incredible lessons, and it is really just a signal from our body that we can use to adapt and change our life. But addictions, numbing, denial, saying we're fine even to ourselves is what we've learnt from our parents, from our fathers. This has been a coping strategy for years and years and years. So even though this pain isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's often a signal that we can learn from, our response to pain is telling yourself you're fine. But the biggest misconception and thing that men don't really know is you cannot run away from this pain forever. We probably realize it, but we still try and use the same coping mechanisms. In the cycle of addiction, the way it works is we have a bad emotion, then we use an addictive substance or stimulant to change how we feel. And after that, we start to feel shame. At first, the addictive cycle is helpful. It helps us numb out, it helps us feel less. And that benefits us in the very short term. But over time, the addictive substance, we just realize that after we take that, it makes us feel okay and better for a very short term. But after a while, we realize that we just feel more shame, we feel worse. So this isn't a strategy that can last. Numbing and denial, it's very short term focused, and it won't help us deal with our pain in a positive way in the long term. And if you're someone who's been running from your pain, you're scared of it, you don't want to face it, and you can't actually handle it, by pushing our pain down, it comes up as an eruption of pain. It may come up in these different ways. So things like irritability and reactivity. For me, when I was a young boy, I would not express my boundaries. I wouldn't express my emotions. I had a lot of trapped feelings within me. And that came up as irritability and reactivity. I would snap at people, for example, snap at my loved ones, my family when I was a teenager, because I didn't have a way to express my feelings. I think also if we're someone who has a lot of intense feelings, rather than sitting with them and accepting what's coming up, we go into overthinking. This is a way to make us feel safe. I had it where I had a massive fear of rejection. I had a pain around being rejected. And as a result, I would overthink and people please. I would think, how can I control this situation, as a way for me to deal with really uncomfortable feelings that at that stage I couldn't handle. And if we're pushing our feelings down, we also may experience numbness and fatigue, because by pushing away some of the pain, numbing out the pain, we also shut down some of the very best parts of ourselves. And this is one of the biggest traps when it comes to trying to numb and run away, escape from pain, is we may push down our anger, our sadness. But these emotions, they're not objectively bad, and I'll get onto this very shortly. But by pushing those down, anger can be a massive motivator for us as men. And I've noticed this in my life. I've freed up some anger, and it's given me a lot more drive, creativity, more of a attitude of I don't care what people are going to think of me. I'd like us to rethink our pain. Our pain often terrifies us because we believe pain is bad. But I want to ask you, what if your mind interpreted pain slightly differently? Maybe your emotional pain is only a sign you need to change something or something's missing in your life. What if the pain is exactly what you need to sit with to better understand yourself? Maybe someone's overstepped your boundaries, for example. So I had an example in a men's group recently where someone had crossed my boundaries. The way they were asking questions wasn't helpful for the group. And what I sat with when I didn't share my feelings was a lot of anger. A lot of anger. I couldn't sleep, a lot of frustration, a lot of pain that I went through because in the moment I didn't express my boundaries. What I learned from that pain, that anger, is I need to be super clear on my boundaries. Otherwise, this bad feeling will come up. And I've actually labeled it there as a bad and a good feeling. But also it's getting to a state of mind where something like sadness or anger is only information and moving away from labeling these as bad feelings. When I experience this anger, which even I have interpreted as bad in that moment explaining it, this anger was only information for my brain, just a signal that I needed to change and set stronger boundaries in that case. Your pain, brother, your pain can be your greatest blessing or your greatest curse. Often we may have a negative experience. So I'm going to take this example of my father was verbally abusive. You may have 3 different responses to this as a man. Maybe you will become a nice guy. I'm so desperate to avoid being that person that my father was. I will be a nice guy. I will people please. And obviously this isn't the optimal scenario because you will then suffer a lot of pain by not expressing yourself, not having assertiveness in your life, which is a vital skill we need to develop as men. You can also have someone who will numb out. They're going to avoid the pain of having difficulty with their father. But the optimal response is I will share my pain. I will speak to other men about what I've been through with my dad. I'm going to sit with the pain and I'm going to use this to grow. I'm not going to push down and escape some of the assertiveness in my life, nor am I going to numb out, run away. And I want to also be a kind man, someone who can contribute to the world. So there are different responses to pain, but my main point is if we're running away from our pain, if we're trying to ignore it and hide from it, push something down, then that's one of our biggest challenges. And the point is our pain need not define us. But numbing and denying can only serve us for so long. How can we work with our pain? So one of the first thing we can do is letting it be. And one exercise that I've done recently is noticing my feelings and sensations without judgment for 5 minutes more. So when I want to numb out, when I want to scroll on social media, I ask, can I sort of sit with this feeling for 5 minutes more? And it just allows you to tolerate the pain and accept the pain a little bit more, and you become more comfortable with that. I want you to also try and recognize black and white thinking. So we may label something as sadness or anger as a bad feeling, but the problem is we're then always trying to escape. We're always trying to find another feeling of happiness, of excitement. Interestingly, feelings like excitement, if we're too excited, which is something we may label as a positive emotion, can actually become too intense. So I think there's a lot of subtlety with our emotions, but the main point is recognize where you're thinking in black and white, because that will probably, if you're thinking like that, you're never really going to truly accept your experience, what you're going through, because you're always chasing another feeling, another emotion, and that makes our lives stressful because we're always seeking a future moment. Also, get curious with what's coming up. How is this a signal for me? What is my body trying to tell me when I have this anger? Has someone overstepped the mark? Do I need to say something? There's also transformation. So owning and reshaping the beliefs that create pain in your life. A big part of this is getting feedback on your beliefs, getting perspectives and questions from other men. Because if we go through our lives and we have a belief that I'm unattractive and we hold on to this belief, that belief will create pain, because we will then look for experiences for people that confirm this belief that we're unattractive. We're going to feel unattractive in ourselves if we keep repeating this belief. And that will limit us from finding fulfilling relationships. We're not going to believe in ourselves. So one exercise we can try is asking why. Why am I unattractive? What evidence is contrary to that? And this is about transforming the beliefs that limit our lives. Another one could be, I don't believe I can make close friendships. It's pretty obvious that if you keep telling yourself this, you're going to doubt your ability to connect with people, and you're going to be closed off to those opportunities. So ask for someone, speak to someone you know, get some feedback on your beliefs. And another part is responsibility, owning what has happened to us. In no sense of the word am I saying that all the resentments in our life are all our fault. There are a number of resentments where we've been too young, things are completely out of our control. But what we can do is own the role we play in holding on to them. So a great exercise I did when I was about 22 was reflect on all the resentments, all the things that kept coming to my head, people who'd been mean to me at school, all these petty resentments. Also things that had happened to me that were seriously wrong and bad. And I would label, what role do I have in holding on to that? Maybe I blame someone for a situation, but where are my expectations around that contributing? Maybe I have some self-pity. Maybe I feel sorry to myself. And this just starts to shift when we realize how we're keeping these resentments alive. Something starts to change. 4 things you can try. So we view pain as negative. Our response as men is to run and try and escape from it. Ask yourself, where was pain actually positive? Where did you, for example, feel very bad, feel very negative, strong emotions, feeling anger, feeling sadness when you were with a person, and where did that lead to you putting up your boundaries, ending the relationship? Where was pain positive for you? Exactly what pain are you avoiding in your life? So get out a journal, reflect on the pain you're avoiding sitting with, and just reflect on that. Reflect on what within you, what emotions, sadness, anger, what difficult conversations you may be avoiding, and what pain do you want to face? What pain are you actually feeling based on what you're avoiding? What do you want to step into? Maybe it's spending just 5 minutes sitting with that feeling. And I also challenge you after this, imagine this pain. Sit for 10 minutes in silence with it. Just notice what comes up. Notice any resistance to sitting. If you've never done this regularly, you're going to feel resistance. And as Blaise Pascal here said, all man's problems stem from being unable to sit quietly in a room alone. This video is to give you an idea that as much as you want to numb and deny your pain, running from it probably isn't going to solve many of your problems. And it's actually by accepting the pain, viewing it rather than as a bad thing, viewing it as a signal for change and transformation. Also learning to sit and accept the pain, tolerate the emotions that come up. And this is a lifelong journey for us. And by doing so, our pain will have much less influence over our lives. I hope this was helpful. Please share this with a brother who needs to see this message, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.